Welcome to BAM Studio, where Bloomberg Businessweek will talk to policymakers, investors, and business owners about the medium and long-term future of Vietnam at the Vietnam Future Economy Summit 2025. Throughout morning and the afternoon sessions, we have side chats, and our next esteemed guest is Mr. Tuấn Nhan. And Tuấn, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me on your program. It's an honor to be here. And myself, I'm a Vietnamese American. I've been in Vietnam for 14 years, with Vietcap Securities all 14 years. And the market and the country and the economy has changed so much for the better.
First things first, I have to congratulate you on becoming the Deputy CEO of Vietcap. Yeah. It's a recent change in leadership. Will this impact the directions of the company? Also, will it impact any of the things that you are already doing at Vietcap?
Well, first, I'd have to thank the board for promoting me and giving me this honor and responsibility. As far as change in the business or strategy, nothing's changed. I think if anything's changed, it's for the better, because we're investing a lot into technology. When you look at our business today versus the business 5 years ago, now we apply much more technology. We are investing heavily into AI to optimize, distribute, customize, and enhance the user experience. So when you say change, I think it's change for the better. More modern practices, market changes, the technology changes. And so we as an organization have to adapt and execute accordingly. So I think that as far as change is, really modernizing the business, boosting technology, and really enhancing our product and services.
Right. I think since you mentioned investments and softwares and apps, I think that naturally, the next question for me is AI affecting, because ChatGPT has only come about over the last couple of years, right? Has AI changed anything of what you're currently investing at the moment? Also, partnering up with AI Hey, is that part of your grand investment strategy for the future?
Yeah, so AI has certainly changed the face of investing. If you look at financial markets around the world, you don't need 50 analysts anymore. This AI can crunch a lot of that, minimize the number of analysts, but at the same time, create the comprehensive wealth. I'm not saying that we'll do that in Vietnam necessarily, because we have a solid team of research analysts and bankers. But what I am saying is that AI can really help optimize a lot of the legwork, reduce the grunt work, let AI do that. As far as consolidating ideas, information, and developing that, AI is the answer. When we talk about policies, macro or stock investments, there's just so much information out there. There's no way for us to read everything. What does AI do? It does recaps, consolidate, and gives us what we want, what we need. That's number one. Is really targeting the product and service to what people want. And then the second part is just optimization. In the past, we would have people sitting there and manually respond to Facebook requests to open accounts, to transfer money, whatever it is. That's not necessary. You ask the same question for AI, boom, spits out the answer in 2 seconds, and it's done. And so there's a lot of practical applications that can be used in AI for financial services firm. We will deploy that as other countries like the US have. We also introduced AI investment mentor Warren. And in this regard, Warren will look at a stock, we'll analyze it in 5 different ways as far as calculating it by DCF, whatever financial model you want to use, and come out with the target price. At the same time, it'll consolidate all of our research and put out a target price. So it's a game changer, and we will fully deploy that to help the investor make better decisions.
Yeah. So what about your partnership with AI Hey currently that just made the news?
AI Hey is the biggest and fastest growing in Vietnam as far as AI. The last number they had was, I think, 16 million downloads, 7.5 million active users per month. So they're very strong as far as content. They're very strong in mass affluent market. And so we're working together, in which we help them provide content by using our AI investment mentor, Warren, so that can reach their masses. So we can help people, we can educate people, we can help them make better decisions, and at the same time, it enables us to reach a lot of new investors in Vietnam.
Let's just come back to macro and investing for a moment. What do you see are the biggest opportunities and the biggest risks in 2026?
Okay, as far as asset allocation, I think from I'm not talking from a fund management perspective, but I talk from a personal perspective. Of course, you have to have a diversified stock portfolio, whether real estate as well. So I consider holding gold, allocate maybe 5 to 10% of your assets to gold. I think USD, maybe a little bit, but I think you're better off with gold because USD still depreciates against gold, right? And I've been bullish gold for, I would say, the last 1.5, 2 years, because you look at monetary policy and you look at 30-year yields all around the world, they're skyrocketing and they're setting record highs. That's why you see the rise of gold and digital assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's from a big picture perspective, from asset allocation. From a stock investment perspective, I think Vietnam is still a very attractive space. You look at the market valuations from a Bloomberg valuation, we're close to about 1 standard deviation below the mean. So forward valuation is still attractive. You're looking at about 12 times forward PE. PE perspective, we're still attractive. Now, one could say that Vietnam deserves a re-rating because you look at now, monetary policy, fiscal policy, really, really strong points right now. You look at how accommodative the government is when it comes to monetary policy. You look at how fast dispersing FDI and infrastructure investment. So we're really in a sweet spot, and I think those would be the space that you can see strengths in. As far as risk, I would say FX. You see the market correct a little bit due to the FX, and you can see the FX. You look at the black market rate; it's 28,000 versus a bank rate, which is about 26,300. Right? That's a big gap. Normally, when it's a gap that big, either the state bank will adjust the band for FX, or they'll come out with policy. They'll sell forward contracts to accommodate for the FX. So I'm watching FX. I'm watching the credit quota. Of course, I'm watching inflation. I think those would be the 3 key risks. But I think the opportunities are still there. The opportunities outweigh the risk when you talk about growth potential, the market development, and we just got upgraded from Vietnam, from Frontier to EM and FTSE. But the next one to watch is MSCI. So I think MSCI is possible within probably 2028, 2029.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned currency depreciation and you're watching that very closely. Do you think that the recent upgrade by FTSE will help attract foreign capital and maybe help alleviate some of the currency depreciation risk and maybe leave room for the SBV still to have loose monetary policy?
Yeah. So the expectation is that the Fed will raise rates steadily for the next, let's say, 3-4 quarters. They've already done so, but the December rate hike is questionable, maybe not now. So you have to watch the Fed. If they continue to reduce rates, it gives the SBV room to maneuver. So we just met Vanguard last week, and the expected number of the passive US dollars coming into Vietnam, expected in for 12-month period, when they start coming in, is about 1.5 billion US dollars. You take that 1.5 billion plus another 6 or 7 billion from other passive funds and active funds. So let's say that brings us to 7 or 8 billion US dollars of US dollar inflows. Okay, if that happens, then we'll be a net positive, right? Because year to date, we're a net outflow, US dollar outflow of 5 billion US dollars. So next year, if we can get a US inflow from the FTSE upgrade, then we'll be a positive 2 or 3 billion. That's very positive. You look at how well the stock exchange has done relative to the the US dollar outflow. And so if you flip that around and you bring in the foreign buyers, so you have a net double positive, right? Reduction of selling and then increase as far as the demand. So we think that's very positive. So I think based on the projections that we see as far as the US dollars coming in, I think it will balance out. It will be a net positive. Let's assume this year 6 billion outflow for the full year. Next year, maybe 6 or 7 inflow. So it'll be slightly positive. So yes, we are optimistic on that front. Since the FTSE upgrade, the announcement, we've been speaking to new funds, speaking to existing clients too, who potentially wouldn't want to allocate more. So there is interest as far as new money and new investors coming in.
Wow, wonderful. So now, because you mentioned a little bit about this in the panel discussion that we just had, and I believe what you said is true, that is currency depreciation is one of the biggest risks, help explain the foreign outflow out of Vietnam, public markets, despite all the good stories that we all agree on. Are there any other reasons that we should be paying attention to in terms of the foreign capital outflow of the public markets?
I mean, it's not solely a function of Vietnam. It's just foreign outflows out of most EM markets, Europe. It's all piling back into AI and US. So Vietnam isn't a standalone case. It's really a function of the whole world putting money into US and whatnot. When we talk about monetary top policy, I think Vietnam's done extremely well in the last 5 years. I give a lot of credit to the State Bank of Vietnam, how they helped us navigate through COVID. They helped us navigate through the bond and credit crisis in 22, 23. So I give a lot of credit to the central bank, SBB. I think macro-wise, I think we're in a really good position, and most investors would agree. It's just a matter of picking the stocks, and yeah, the FX would be a concern for them. But like I said, Vietnam has held up relatively well when we compare it to the regional peers. And so, I think this year so far 6% year to date. I think next year should be flat, if not slightly, because yeah, of the factors that we discussed earlier.
So am I sensing a yes to the next question, that is, given that the market has gone down for the last couple of weeks, Vietnam public equity market, it is a good opportunity to start dipping your cash if you still have any?
Yeah, like I said, the valuations before, they're below the mean. You know, we're close to one standard deviation below the mean. And the question is, well, why are we one standard deviation below the mean when you have really good monetary policy, when you have really good fiscal policy, stable politics, stable macroeconomy, earnings growth, you know, all the positives are in place. So why should the PE be below the 10-year mean? That doesn't make any sense. On top of that, we have the upgrade into FTSE EM status, right? So I think if anything, the market should be trading higher than the 10-year mean. So we should be trading at, like, let's say, one standard deviation above the mean. So with that said, is that a good time to buy? I think so, yes. You know, I wouldn't allocate 100% of your cash right now, but I think from now to year end, you spread it out from now to year end, you buy 5 or 6 different tranches. And I think that once the credit quota opens up again in January, that money's going to flow back into the system and it'll flow back into the stock market.
To our audience, what I meant in terms of the one standard deviation below the mean, in layman terms, as I understand it, is that there's only a few times that the market is still cheap relative to its mean. And I may think of 2022 or 2018, 19, or 2020 when COVID happened. Those were the times when the market was trading below 1 or 2 standard deviation below its means. And those were the wonderful time to start buying, right?
Yeah. But and those, remember, the 2 periods that Sun mentioned is that they were bad times, right? You have real estate / credit crisis and COVID where everything shut down. Right now, we're in a really good spot. So there's no reason for us to be below the mean. You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the sectors then, if we all agree that this is time to buy, where should we deploy our capital for next year?
I think you should deploy money in select banks that are trading high quality banks, low cost of funds, high CASA, trading at 1.1 times price to book on 2026. So there's a handful of banks out there that meet that criteria and their quality. And then I would say real estate. Of course, real estate is higher beta, but in a market, if you're looking at a bull market, you want to be higher beta. On top of that, we had a credit crisis in 23 and 24. 24, 25, you look at real estate transactions, they're improving again. A lot of the real estate companies that we do business with, their pre-sales are doing really well. You know, a lot of projects are sold out. And so a lot of those earnings will be booked in 2026. So that's why I think that there's a lot of forward momentum for the real estate sector.
Yeah. Okay. And one of the things that the audience should know is that Vietcap is not only one of the top brokerage houses in Vietnam for retail clients. You guys are also very big in terms of investment banking. Some may even call you the Goldman Sachs of Vietnam. I'm not sure if you like it, but with the recent IPO market getting heated up, do you see these opportunities being big for you, for your firm? And what's this trend? Will this trend continue in 2026?
Yeah, so we've secured several IPOs recently, some very sizable ones. We do think the trend will continue. You know, you look at capital markets right now, This is the best time for Vietnam. We've never seen average daily trading value this high. We've never seen the ticket size of deals this big. You know, if you were to talk to me 6 years ago and you were to say, Tuấn, is a $400 million a big deal? We say, oh man, that's a mega deal. But now you're like, okay, $400 million, it's pretty common, right?
Wonderful.
TCX, VPBS, there's some couple other deals coming forward in the future. So that the relative stance of where we were then versus now is a huge difference. You're going to see some new businesses, and you're going to see new deals to raise capital to grow existing businesses. So we're very excited in that space.
Yeah, I'm very excited for you. I'm sure this is a fun time for you and your firm, and congratulations to your team as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending time with BAM Studio.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks very much, Sung.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.